Hi, Misha here, and we are working on some new content and some rifles and pistols that haven't been seen on the channel before. But it's again raining, woohoo, and just time and scheduling, so we're not sure when we'll get to be able to do more range-oriented stuff. But with that in mind, I thought, why not go on and do a preview of this rifle here. The Zastava, formerly Krena Zastava, today Zastava Arms, M76 rifle, often called the sniper rifle, but as many point out correctly, more of a DMR. And I was really surprised there's not a lot of videos or even content out on this weapon, aside from the very basics. So in this video, we'll do a little preview, talk about this rifle, a little bit on the history, and then we will get to a full range review. Jay will give you some impressions of accuracy and the scope and that good stuff. Well, this rifle here is developed from this rifle up here. This is my Yugoslavian M70, often called the AP for automatic rifle in Serbian M70. This was the first full adoption version. Now, Zastava started making 8mm Mauser bolt actions after, well, really before World War I and then after World War II. And they began making SKSs in the 1960s. They set up to make them, adopting them officially as the Model 59, but it really wasn't until the early mid-60s that the SKS was in full production, firing 7.62-39. So once the SKS line was rolling, they started working on their own Kalashnikov variant in around 1964. And this was based on the original milled AK, Type 3. But they made several changes. They really wanted a bolt hole open device, so the earliest version, often called M64 or M67, had a true bolt hole open device. They also wanted easy and good use for rifle grenade launching, so they added a gas cutoff for the gas block with fold-up grenade sights, and they would also add flip-up night sights. After trying it out, the Yugoslavian National Army, the JNA, would adopt the AP in a slightly simplified for mass production version, like you see here, as the M70. Now, the first ones were still milled, but they would soon go to a barrel that was pressed and pinned in place. They had a unique stock attachment where the bolt kind of runs through instead of using a tang. They also went to extended handguards. But otherwise, it was pretty much your basic Kalashnikov 16-inch barrel. They also got rid of the bolt hold open device and went to a simple bolt hold open follower on the magazine, which did hold the back when the mag was empty, but of course when you pulled the mag out, it slammed forward. Now later, of course, they would go to stamped receivers. First they would try 1.0. Later they would go to 1.5mm stamped. Most of you are familiar with those, known as the M70B1 for fixed stock, or M70AB2 for underfolding. Well, after that was successful, the Yugoslavian army requested that Zastava develop a designated marksman rifle to be used in the same capacity like Russia was using their SVD Dragunov. Either Zastava or Yugoslavia or both did not want to mess with getting a license to produce the SVD from the Soviet Union. So much like Romania was doing at the time, they worked on upscaling their existing Kalashnikov to fire a more powerful full house cartridge. The military also wanted this new rifle to be semi-auto only. No need for full auto, of course. And they ultimately would go with 8mm 7.9 by 57 IS because they had so many rounds on hand. Yugoslavia didn't really use 7.62 by 54R, rather they used the 8mm Mauser round. So going for it in their new DMR was logical. And since they were just basing it on upscaling the Kalashnikov, and since Romania, Cougar, had a bit of a head start on them, development was quite quick. It started in earnest in 1975, and already by 1976 they had working prototypes, and by the end of the year they had produced kind of a pre-production batch that were being tried out by specialists in the Yugoslavian army. So what do we have here? Well, it really is just an upscaled M70. It too is on a milled receiver, but it's stretched out to about 1 inch, a little less than 1 inch for the new cartridge. They also had to enlarge, lengthen the bolt carrier, gas piston. But it's all still basically the same. It does have a semi-auto only trigger pack. Interestingly, it takes the same mounting hardware for the stock and pistol grip as a standard rifle, but they had their own style. They have this very ergonomic, oversized wood grip. It's actually very reminiscent of early M70s. This one here, for example, is a transitional. It's polymer, but it does have the metal tang still. Well, the earlier ones were actually wood. You see this stock is straight with the rubber butt plate. This stock has the rubber butt plate, but it has this small semi-pistol grip here, both to allow more space behind the grip and also to allow the offhand to grip it if necessary. It fed from detaching 10-round box mags, double stack, double feed, with the patented Yugo bolt hold open follower, but no automatic device, just a last round hold back follower. Had a double hook trigger, very standard AK. Polished bolt carrier. Had the patented Yugoslavian extended handguards. Of course, made larger for the barrel. The barrel itself is thicker for the 8mm round. It's also about 21 3/4 inches long. So about 5.5 inches longer. Interestingly, we have an adjustable gas system here, but you do have to disassemble it for adjustment. It's kind of inspired by the SVD Dragunov. 0 is fully closed. Gas is shut off. 1 is more or less standard. 2 is to be used with low power ammo, or if you're in very cold or high altitude climates. And 3 is adverse, or when the gun is extremely fouled. Now notice there's no cleaning rod under the barrel. The cleaning rod was actually a 3-piece sectional rod stored in the magazine pouch, along with 4 spare mags. They would also issue a cleaning rope for these. The barrel was cold hammer forged, but not chrome lined. Zastava did not even start chrome lining some of its guns until 1984 at the very earliest. And then finally on this end, have a more or less standard looking front sight. We have a bayonet lug under it for a standard AKM bayonet. We have a slotted flash hider, 5 slots. One thing that's kind of interesting, we have interrupted threads here for attaching a sound suppressor, or a blank firing training device. In moving back to the optic, which is not my specialty, so Jay will help you with that. It is a ZRAK On-M76 4-power. It's adjustable for windage and elevation, pretty standard. And it's essentially a copy of the Russian PSO-1, and quite similar to the Romanian's own LPS scope. It does have an illuminated reticle with radioactive tritium, which of course eventually dies. Rubber eyepiece. Slides on to a standard mount. That is supposed to return to zero and meant to be taken off for routine cleaning and maintenance. Overall, this is about 44.5 inches long and weighs right about 10 pounds. And it often gets compared to the PSL because they both are upscaled AKs meant to be used as DMRs. The PSL actually has a slightly longer barrel at about 24 and some change inches. Overall is about 45.25 inches long. But since it's on a stamped receiver, even though it's 1.5 mil, it's actually 9.5 pounds, so it's a little bit lighter. Now, to be fair, while the original versions had the wood furniture, late production M76s did come with modern polymer furniture, which did cut down the weight between 3/4 of a pound and a full pound. So that helped quite a bit. The weapon received a reputation for durability, reliability, being very rugged. As far as accuracy, what I can say, when properly tuned and using the right ammo, these are expected to make 1.5 to 2 MOA groups. They could fire the standard 198 grain ball M49 round that the Mausers used in Yugoslavia, but then they also developed a special marksman or sniper round known as ball M75. So for best performance, that's the way to go. Standard range these were used at was 600 meters, maybe a little less. Max range for our average conscript was about 800 meters, and it's been said that a skilled user who is familiar with the rifle and its quirks could get up to nearly 1,000 meters on a good day. It was not a sniper rifle. It was never meant to be. It was meant to extend the range and lethality on the platoon level. It was also built to be relatively inexpensive to produce and easy to mass produce. And they would build quite a few of these throughout the late 70s and early 80s. Once only issued to a few select people in the Yugoslavian military, very soon in the 80s, most every unit would have a couple of these kicking around, which unfortunately meant they also saw quite a bit of use in the 1990s during the Civil War. After the war, they would continue on in Serbian service as well as Croatian and Bosnian. They would also be sold to Saudi Arabia, and a license to produce the M70 would be given to Iraq, or sold to Iraq, and they made kind of a hybrid version of the M70 and the M76 known as the Tabuk. Now, no one seems to have real exact numbers for how many M76s were built, 15,000 is the only number I could find at all, and no one seems to know when manufacturing ceased. We do know that in 1999, after the Civil War, the Serbian government started a new plan for the 21st century, in which they were going to replace the M76 with the new M91 and replace the 8mm cartridge with 7.62x54 rimmed. And we do know that they stopped all milled receiver production by at least 2012. So it stands to reason M76 manufacturing ended sometime between 1999 and 2012. For what they were designed for, they did very well. But a sniper rifle, they are not. They are much more a Kalashnikov, with very little Dragunov in them. Some people mistake the PSL for a Dragunov because of the stock and overall look, but this definitely looks more like an AK, I would say. As far as the M76 in America, it was always designed as a semi-auto, but unfortunately for us, it kept the auto sear, the out-of-battery safety, which the ATF considers the no-no part. So in 1986, Mitchell Arms, worked with Kragujevac Zastava in Yugoslavia to import a version over here that they called the LKP M76, and we just called the M76, or even sometimes just AK-47, but anyway, without that evil out-of-battery safety. And these started to come in 1988, but then the 89 ban came down. Only about 80 pre-ban M76 Mitchells in 8mm with the milled receiver came in. Now there were other versions in 7.62, NATO, and with stamped receivers like the M77, but milled M76 8mm, only about 80. Post-ban, and those are often called M76/90 or M76 M90s, another 200 or so came in. These are mostly Cotton Customs guns. I think they might have all been Cotton Customs guns. Of course, they had to comply with the new import restrictions, so taking off some evil features. But yeah. Then in the late 90s, PW Arms tried to import 2,000 M76s and did so, selling them through SOG, Southern Ohio Gun, SOG. They submitted a sample to the ATF, got approval, imported them, all 2,000 sold, and then about half a year later, the ATF changed their mind when they realized they had the out-of-battery safety. The ATF just redeemed them illegal machine guns and ordered a mandatory recall. The guns were torch cut, and the customers had their money refunded. And I refer to this in that PSL video I did a while back about the Classic Arms Romanian PSL imports that had the third hull, that they also did a recall on. So it happened in the past and it happened again. Since that time, we haven't really seen more M76s. Since Zastava no longer does milled guns, what we've seen are the stamped M77 and 308, 7.62 NATO, and most recently, the stamped M91 in 7.62x54R. These are their more modern guns. This gun seems fully out of production, so a new, fresh import does not seem likely. So what about my gun here? What is it? Who built it and where? All that good stuff. And how does it compare to my Romanian PSL in terms of accuracy, recoil, all that good stuff? And when will it ever stop raining in Northwest Arkansas? These questions and more will be answered in part 2 or the full part, however you like to view it. I just wanted to talk about the history a little bit tonight on this rifle here and show you something that will hopefully be coming up this spring. Anyway, if you own an M76 or an M77 or an M91 or a PSL or heck, a 22, love to chat with you about it in the comments. If you could, as always, like, share, and subscribe. And if you'd like to help support the channel, please check out the link to our Patreon page. Well, wish us luck that we are able to do part 2 sooner than later. And with that, this is Misha, and we'll catch you very soon next time.